Alright, quick one on waypoints. I say quick, but they're never quick. Quick enough. Alright, everybody knows waypoints. You select a unit, you hold down the shift key, and you can continually do build orders. Right? Very simple. If an order in that line is something else, like a reclaim or an attack, I'm in sandbox, so I don't have any attack right now, but attack, they will queue up, and then you can continually do move orders after that. Now, one of the most important things about this I find is that you can continue to hold shift and you can move waypoints that you don't like where they were placed. A little tougher to move something like that. It'll snap back. You can move it. Oh no, can't move it to another place? I thought you could, but anyways, it'll snap back. Attack orders I know you can drag from one to the other, but that's generally not what you want to do. The other option you can do, if you queued up these orders and you don't like one, hold down all, Control, Shift, and Alt, all three of them, and then right-click, you'll actually remove them. That'll happen for build orders, that'll happen for everything, right? P is your patrol key. When you hold that, you see your cursor changes. That was just a P. You can't do it in build order, so make sure if you're in your build mode up here and it doesn't work, it wants you to build power instead, cancel your build mode, then hit P. And what it's going to do is when it gets to the last order point in its waypoint, it's going to create a patrol from that. You can't give further orders like this. It will be part of the patrol. Building, don't try to build from here with shift. If you try to build a P-gen after this point, it really fucks things up. I find that it'll do this whole patrol. It may build these at some point, but you really don't want to do that. If you've got a convoluted waypoint, patrol or not, the easiest thing to do, because this guy's reclaiming, he's going to be at this all day. The easiest thing to do is with shift not held, right click, and now you've canceled everything you've given them a new set of orders. Now you can add to, and now you can build that P-gen. Okay? A little note on orders like this, you'll know that these guys will walk right up to something before they start building it. Waypoint or no, like that's what he's going to do, right? Bad example. Now, it's outside his ring, he's going to walk right up to it before he builds it. That's wasted time, technically. When you're doing your first build order, one of the best things you can do, let me grab a sub-commander here. He's closest to my ACU. My ACU is somewhere else. If this is your ACU coming down, he's got a larger build radius. Always build, even if the mass extractors are a little bit outside, like they are on some maps. Sometimes they're in this radius, sometimes they're outside. Always build your first factory, unless it's super important not to. Always build your first factory somewhere inside this yellow radius, right? Even halfway will work. He'll start building that without walking. If you fail to do that, turn off build, then stop him. If you fail to do that, he will walk. Oh, that was still just, look at that, the corner's just inside. Better example, I just because I did the Control Shift Alt right click and cancel that order. But you see, oh, he's still, look at that, bad examples. Alright, you son of a bitch, this one's outside your range. Yeah, so he's gonna walk, right? So your initial build order should always be inside unless it's super important. If it is super important that you move, if the mass extractor is outside the ring and you really want your first factory to have adjacency bonus, then don't make him walk all the way to it and build it. What you do is you look at the distance. If it's about that far, make him walk about that far. And now he hasn't walked all the way to the end. It may not sound like a lot, but if you want to be super efficient with your build order, that's the sort of thing you can do. Build your next two P-gens. If the other mass extractor was over here, I would do the same thing. A waypoint, and then I would queue up the imaginary mass extractor here. We'll just call it a P-gen this time. But again, if I didn't do this point right here, then the second he was done this, he would walk all the way to this mass extractor right here, and then build it right here. This way I can save time, especially if I want to go this way afterwards, right? Again, we're talking real, high-level stuff, but if you want to do it and you want to practice waypoints, that's a great exercise right there. All right, real briefly, I did already show you guys the ferry command. Or maybe I didn't. I don't know what order I'm going to do this in, but I do love multiple waypoints on a ferry command because you can drag those waypoints and affect things while they're in motion. And that's great for grouping these things up. There's only 2. These guys may end up being pretty grouped up anyways. But it never hurts to show you this again, because I find it really important when you're trying to keep your drops together. Now look at these waypoints. They hit each one in turn, and then they fly. Holding shift, you can drag these waypoints as well. You can drag them all over. And these guys are going to just continually chase that until you're done fucking with them. But the nice thing is it gets them nice. You put it like here, and it gets them nice and grouped. And then you say, okay, go ahead. Now go drop. And now you get your transports nicely grouped. Okay? Shit, that's a lot of interceptors. Okay. I left Control Z. You saw that? That's my panic interceptor grab. Grab a bunch, Control Z, you grab them all. Remember, Control Z is screen wide. If you don't want that, if you have a couple interceptors patrolling over here to stop scouts and you only want your main group, it's better to zoom in and double click instead. That wouldn't have selected ones over there. I'll show you. There, didn't select those because I was zoomed in. Control Z does. So that's the difference. But anyways, here we go. Got our interceptors. Now you can always do the same thing with interceptors as well. I find I do this very seldomly. If I want my interceptors to go intercept something, I don't put a waypoint. I just steer them manually. No problem. Patrols on interceptors, super important. If I don't want those scouts getting in, I'm not going to wait for them to fly this whole route, but you can see that's essentially putting up a barrier, especially if your waypoint from the factory is doing that. I like to do it backwards to keep it a nice thin line as opposed to a big oval, but you can do that too. If this comes from the factory, it'll be a lot less clumped up and it'll be a lot more steady. It can make a real nice interceptor shield to stop stuff if you've got the interceptors to waste. But keep in mind they're spending gas while they're doing that, which is not a problem for tier 3. It is a problem for tier 1. That reminds me, I should tell you guys about the refueling if you're not used to doing it. I have a template. The build hotkey for tier 2 is G for the actual transport pad. I have a nice little hotkey for just these 2, but I'll let them build that and get back to it. What I was going to say about the interceptors though is when you fight, there's a little bit, if you ever want to micromanage these things, here's what you want to do. You want to ball them. And if I know Rogo's got a similarly sized cloud coming for me, I don't just want to right click on an interceptor or just move it in a direction. What you ultimately want to do is clump them like this. And you kind of get the habit of moving them in a circle. I'm going to click slightly less often. Just, you want to keep them about 30 degrees from the direction they're heading. You get a nice little death ball. And since these things have a forward firing cone, this usually, if you can do this sort of a dance, why did they go around that? That was weird. If you can do this sort of a dance, let me ball them up again, and do this sort of circle around the fight, you'll get pretty much constant fire from your lead interceptors. Right? It's not perfect. It takes practice. It's a microing thing. And even if they split at some point and some of them go off another direction, no big deal. But if the fight is happening, if I can keep my guys going around in a death ball with their frontal cone almost always firing at something, whereas his are just scattering in all directions because he's not micromanaging, I'm almost always going to come out well ahead in an equal interceptor fight. Right? Keep in mind, if you don't do that, I should have done this with bombers. There's no way to do this with interceptors, but they start doing like this, right? They start some flying one way, some flying the other. They're flying away and they're getting shot in the ass. So yeah, you can sort of see it's a micromanaging thing, but it definitely brings more fire to bear in a fight. So consider that. All right, and then the last thing I was going to say, now that this is built, what I might do is I might start my patrol. Like that. If they fly over this thing, if they're ever damaged or low on fuel, they will automatically land and both repair and gas up. Not as big a problem with the interceptors here, because you see there's all this flying, they're still almost full tanks. But tier 1 interceptors and scouts will, and you've seen it before, I'm sure, they're out of gas, their thing flashes orange, they fly slower. But if you do a patrol over a refueling station, they can stay up in the air indefinitely. If they're down to about a third or a quarter, they'll refuel, and if they take any AA damage but survive, they'll land and repair themselves. All right, that's about all I can think of for waypoints, other than I purposely turned my mass off. This should have gone right back to the beginning, but you guys know that these guys on patrol, right click, P, shift, 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 give them a big patrol. Oh, I thought I had some wrecks here. Did they vanish? Maybe I made more wrecks and they vanished. But anyways, don't be afraid to grab idle engineers. Just grab 1 or 2 at a time. One giant group doing the same patrol out of a factory is not the end of the world, but it's a more efficient if they're not. What they'll happen is if there's mass here, they'll clean all this mass up and they will literally like hoover the whole thing, but they're in a giant clump. Certainly spreading out with individual engineers is a little more efficient. But yeah, if you find the engineers just sitting around, you all have this mod of the idle engineer mod, right? And I think everybody's got it. Maybe AJ missed it. Maybe some others don't. If you don't have it, grab it, because it's great to see. Oh, this guy's purple. He's not doing anything. Guess what? Now you are, right? Make him do something. If there's no mass around, then sure, you know, if you're starving, don't build. But if you're not starving, if you're sitting on half mass, then build something, for Christ's sakes. All right. There you go. Another nice quote-unquote short video.